Hello, everyone. My name is Bryce Burnett with the Medicare department here at OCI. Today, I am going to be doing a webinar on how to run a Medicare Advantage and prescription drug quote using our Medicare quoting tool. So first step is to log into the Medicare quoting tool, be on the dashboard. And on the dashboard, you're actually going to see a couple different options here for Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plan. This is the normal old version. And then over here on the right-hand side is Medicare Advantage, PDP, and then you can see it's got the beta on there. That's the one we're going to be using, and I would recommend using moving forward because using this version will allow you to save your prescriptions and pharmacies to a specific client. Eventually, this one will go away, and it will just be this one, but they're working through some hiccups here and just trying to get it as smooth as possible for us moving forward. So you'll go ahead and select the version 2 beta and hit run quote. As I've done a video before on client manager. So again, just like every other quote, I suggest always selecting a client that you've created. This allows you to save your prescriptions to the individual as well as the pharmacy to the individual as well. And it just makes it a little bit easier because it does input the client information. For today's purposes, I am going to change the zip code though, just to make it a local Medicare Advantage and local prescription drug plan here. And then just like any other quote, you do have the option to change a couple different things. Today, we're just going to start with Medicare Advantage, and then we'll do a prescription drug one here at the end. But if you did want to switch, you can go back and forth here, and it does also have the special needs plans. You can add a low income subsidy if you know that amount there. You can go ahead and do that as well. And then sort by. I always like to just do the annual drug and premium cost. I strongly suggest doing this. It gives you a better, well-rounded understanding of which plans are going to be best for the client. So always be sure to change that. And then to add the prescriptions, you just scroll down to the prescription drugs section. Make sure you have show drugs as yes. And then I like to just leave it as both for our fill method. Just so that way you can see both options rather than having to just see the in-person physical pharmacy rather than mail order. I always do this just because honestly, every time I ask the client, if it's cheaper, they would do mail order. So I like to leave it as both. Today's quote purposes, I'm going to just go ahead and do a pretty basic prescription. Just a little tip for you guys here. If you have a pretty substantial list of prescriptions, you can do keep open and add multiple. That way you don't have to continuously going back and hit add prescription drug after each and every single one. So again, for today's purposes, I'm going to do a pretty simple one like lisinopril, just like I did previously on one of the other training videos, and just selecting a random dosage and leaving the quantity. You can change quantity every 2 and every 3 months, and then, or I'm sorry, frequency every 2 months and every 3 months. And then quantity, you can obviously fill those in as needed. If they're taking it twice a day, obviously you just switch it up to 60 and then add drug. And because we selected keep open and add multiple, it just automatically adds it and you can continue typing. So again, we're going to do a atorvastatin, generic version, add drug, and we can do one more. Let's do metformin. And then once you are done, you just go ahead and click the exit, and you'll see the prescriptions that you just put in right here in this field, and then you can add pharmacy. It does do a search radius of 10 miles, so if you're in a rural area, you might have to stretch it out to 20 or 50 miles, but then also you can do a pharmacy search by just typing in the pharmacy. So you can do Hy-Vee, or you can even do, let's say, CVS. I like to use those ones. CVS and Walgreens. And then you just do add pharmacies, and both of them are there. I think you can add up to 5 on here, and it will automatically do mail order as well when you go forward, as long as you selected both. Then you go ahead and click get quote. You'll have your search criteria up here that you can actually just click on and change if you'd like. Or for example, if you find out they do have a low income subsidy after you've ran the quote, you can click on that. And then It does take a little bit to load, and you probably just saw that there jump in, but it does take just a few minutes to load, and it will show you over here the monthly premium. And then this is the portion that I look at, is the drug premium plus the cost for drugs. And it gives you an annual amount here, just like Medicare.gov. You can see that annual amount, and you can determine which plan is least expensive just based off of drugs alone and premium. And then obviously clicking in on the plan to see what the actual coverage is like for copays. So again, this does filter it as being least expensive to most expensive as you go down. And again, it's on that total drug and premium cost. Obviously, like I said, it does take a few minutes to pull up, but it will pull up there. And for today's purposes, we'll just go ahead and click in on this one. You can click on there and you can see a better overview of the plan. This just gives you a pretty brief overview of what you can expect having this plan. But when you go into the benefits and costs, this is where I like to use the most, just going over with clients, just like Medicare.gov. It goes over each and almost all copays. Obviously, there are a few that aren't touched here, but it does give you the very basic overview of what the plan covers. So you can always go over this information with your client as well. But then at the very top here, the next most important thing to look at is drug coverage and costs. It is going to be very similar to what it looks like for the prescription drug quote as well. It just lists out the different tiers of drugs that you have here, and then the list of the prescriptions that you selected. And then over here, you'll see it does break it out between the pharmacies. You have CVS and Walgreens, and then mail order, and then the cost, what you can expect for retail, before deductible, after deductible, in coverage gap, and after coverage gap. I like to scroll down to the bottom here, and I use this because it just breaks it down by month, very similar to how Medicare.gov does it. Again, you'll see all three options, so CVS, Walgreens, and mail order, and then it breaks it down by month. You'll see the monthly cost and then the cumulative cost. It does just adjust as you go. So obviously in May, if they went to CVS, it'd be $8.40. Walgreens is $7.90. And then mail order would be $0. Again, that's why I like to do both, because it does come in and give you that option as well. And sometimes that makes it cheaper for the client, and the client would be more than happy to do so. So I do like seeing this here, and it just does help explain the coverage of the plan, just like Medicare.gov does. And again, like I said, you can see the cumulative amounts over here. That way you can kind of see what their costs would be for the year. So obviously for this option, mail order is the cheapest route to go. However, the next cheapest route would be Walgreens, and then they have the option of CVS. And then there's carrier resources. Again, this is very similar to what it would look like with Medicare supplements. It just gives you their contact, address, phone number, and you can click directly to their website and use your broker credentials to log in there. So again, you have overview, benefits costs, RX drug coverage costs, and carrier resources. Let's say you wanted to look at another option and you want to compare some quotes. Let's do, for example, the AARP. You would just select that little check mark there, and it would highlight in green. And then you click compare quotes over here on the right-hand side. It does a side-by-side comparison just like it would for Medicare supplements, and it's going to do the same thing for prescription drug plans as well. And you'll see a quick little snapshot of side-by-side, and then you can do benefits and costs again side-by-side here. This is extremely helpful. I don't even think you can actually click in on plan details on Medicare.gov, whereas you can now here on the quoting tool. And I think this just gives a great comparison from plan to plan to give to your clients. I think this will help make it a little bit easier for them to understand. And same with the RX drug coverage costs, same thing, side by side. So that's really helpful. You'll be able to see those things. As you scroll down further, it's going to look the exact same in the same order, just going to be a side by side comparison. So I think this will be very, very helpful. Carrier resources, again, side by side, it's going to have both of them on there for you. So I did mention before in a previous video under the client manager that it does save the quotes on there. So if you list any prescriptions and pharmacies, you'll see them on there. You'll see run quote. It will show up as Medicare supplement right now. It's because I just ran the quote. But if we went back to the dashboard and acted as if we were going to run the quote again for that individual, we select that same person's name. See how it even updated the zip codes of what I ran previously, but it's also going to save those prescriptions and pharmacies for any future quotes that you end up needing to do. This is extremely helpful during that AEP time, because then you don't have to really input all of these drugs again. Obviously for this one, it's very basic and very simple, but as we all know, some prescriptions can get pretty crazy when your client has 20 plus prescriptions. So that's a really quick Medicare Advantage quote. I'll go ahead and do a prescription drug quote as well. It is going to be very, very similar, but I figure it'd be best if we just ran through it at the same time rather than doing an individual video. So you'll click the same thing, the version 2 beta, click run quote. For this example, I'll select a different person. So we'll just do John Doe. It again auto-populates everything. And then I just switched to Medicare Part D. And again, annual drug and premium cost. I feel like this gives the best comparison. I've already added a prescription in for this individual. So I won't go through those steps again because it's the exact same. But then we'll just click get quote. Same information up here that you can always click in on and change the criteria. Let me go ahead and clear these out from before with the Medicare Advantage, but it's going to have the same information. So it's going to have the carrier that you're writing over on the left-hand side, and then the premium as well as the drug cost plus premium cost below. And again, it orders it from lowest to highest. A couple different things that are kind of cool on here is this drug coverage only. Obviously, prescription drug plans are only covering prescription drugs, not medical. But one of one RX drugs, that's because we've only put in one prescription on this individual, and that one is covered. If you had multiple, you can see that typically it will, for the most part, show 3 of 3 or 4 of 4, but it might say 3 of 4. That just lets you know that only 3 of those 4 prescriptions are covered. Same with the 1 of 2 pharmacies. We obviously know SilverScript and CVS work really well together, so that one's probably the preferred pharmacy, whereas Walgreens is probably not. But then you can go ahead and do a comparison side by side as well. Click compare quotes, and I must have only accidentally selected one there, so let me go back, click compare quotes. Oops, keeps doing that. There we go. Now it should show a side by side of SilverScript and ClearSpring Health Premier RX. Most important thing for this one is clicking in on the RX drug coverage cost. Obviously, it does have, these plans have deductibles, so it is important to go over that information with the client, but looking at prescription costs are very important for the client as well. So going down here and looking at a side-by-side comparison gives you a good, accurate understanding of which plan is going to cover the individual the best based off of their prescriptions and the pharmacy that they go to. This does also have a carrier resource tab, just like the previous version for Medicare Advantage. So you can click on there and get their information and a link to the carrier website. Other than that, it is basically the exact same version or same look and has the same information as a Medicare Advantage quote does. You're just only going to see the prescription drug plans. You can always, like I mentioned, go in and change that search criteria. You can add a different drug. You can click in on and edit that drug. And again, if you selected a client, it will save that client's information in there. So going back to run quote, select client. I think we did John Doe. Prescriptions are all there. Pharmacies are all there. Click quote, get quote, and it's going to show exactly what we saw previously, just like before. Hopefully that does help you guys. I think it is going to be very helpful where it does save the prescriptions, just like Medicare.gov used to. I know we all really enjoyed when that was on there, and we're a little devastated when they took that off. I think this tool will help make our lives a little bit easier by saving those prescriptions and save us a little bit of time so we can help our clients as much as we possibly can. If you have any questions about running a Medicare Advantage or prescription drug quote, please don't hesitate to contact OCI here. You can always call 402-330-8700 and ask for anybody in the Medicare department. Or you can always just shoot an email to medicare@ociservices.com, and either Jess or myself will answer your questions or even reach back out to you via phone call and and help walk you through that. Thank you.